Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss about the Linux file permissions. So let's get started. So let me list all the files and folders which is present in the documentation partitions. So to list all, I will use the ls-lrth command. I already told in my previous videos like what is ls-lrth, how it is going to functions. If you are not known what is ls-lrth, go and watch my previous video. So let's continue this one. So ls-lrth. So it is going to list all the files and the folders which is present in the documentation directory or documentation folders. So coming to that first thing, there are ownership and the Linux file permissions. So these three, Kali and the Kali, which is represented this one is the user permission. Who is that user which is having the permission to do these activities, and what is the group? So this file is belongs to the Kali user and the Kali group. So we will see later like how we can change the ownership as well. So first we will go and check for that what are the file permissions which is available and like what and all it is there. So there are total 10 fields. If you put that ls minus lrth in the beginning, it will show total 10 fields. So if you consider for the first field, it will always minus or hyphen or d. So if it is a hyphen, it represents it is a file. If it is a D, it represents it is a directory. So if you see here, there are 4 files and one directory which is present here. So coming to the next 3 fields. So before coming to the next 3 fields, we have to understand that what are the like permissions which we can give it to the file. So there are 3 permissions. One is read permissions, one second is the write permissions, and the third is the execute permissions. So first field represented whether the file has the read permissions or not. The second field which is representative whether the like user this user. I'll explain the why it has that 9 field also. The second field which is represented whether it has a write permissions or not. The third field which is represented it as an execute permissions or not. So coming to the 9 fields, the first field will always represent whether it is a file or folder directory. Coming to the next 9 field, first 3 fields which is represented the users. The user is always Kali, like which is that user Kali. Okay, if you wanted to, okay, in Linux there are so many categories it is there. One is user, one is others, one is group. So this is the first 3 represented the user permissions. The second 3 represented the group permissions. The third field which is represented the other permissions. Like if you consider that like this is the Kali user. So this belongs to the Kali user. I wanted to give some permissions. I will create a new user in my server. So I have to give only few permissions to that files, because if we give all read, write, and execute permissions, so other person who is accessing that file or the folders, they can delete or they can do the modification to that file. So I don't want that to be happen. So that's why there will be separate the user group and the other field is there. So now we will see that how we can change the uh, permission to the user, how we can change the permission to the groups, and how we can change the permission to others. So I will take this one. So currently this is having that read, write, and the only read and write permission is there. I wanted to change it to read, write, and execute permissions. So for that, we use one command called chmod command. Chmod command, what it will be doing, it will be change the like permission for the user, others, and the groups. So if you I wanted to change the user permission to read, write, and execute for the file cdrs.txt. So let's see how we can do that. We can do it by using chmod. So I have to change the user permission, and there is already read and write permission is there. I want to add that execute permissions. So X represented the execute permissions. So which file I have to change? So this one. So let's see whether it has been changed or not. Here you can see that before that there was no execute permissions. So you can see that there is an execute permissions. Okay, next is like I wanted to change it to group. How we can change it? Group represent G. G plus. So I have that like only read permission is there. I wanted to add write permissions also, execute permissions also. So I have given both the execute permissions and the root permissions. So if you wanted to do the same thing to others, I don't want to give any permissions at all. So how we can remove it? So we can remove it using the ch mode only. So others represented O. For that we have to do at minus. As you can see that the others don't have any permissions at all. The others can't even able to open that file. They cannot even do anything. Even they cannot read also those files. So this is the like this is why we use the file permission in that Linux. So we can do the same thing to folders as well. So we can do it. We can do it like all three things using the same thing. Instead of that easy way to do the file permissions using like this is like using comments. If we can do it using the numericals as well. So in the numericals we can one represented execute permissions, execute. Two represented write permission. Okay. Four represent read permissions. So let's say consider like we'll take an example of CDRs as well. So I want read. So I'll explain all the things. If you want to give execute and the write permissions, we will use three. Three is write and execute permission. Okay, 5 is read and execute permission. Read and execute permission. Okay, 6 is read and write permission. 7 is all permission. Okay. So let me clear the terminal. List all the. So I wanted to give all the permission to user, only read permission to group and the read permission to other. So how we can do that? Okay, by using 744. 7, the first number represented the which are the permissions which is required for user. The second letter which is representative what are the permissions which is required for groups. The third one which is representative what are the permissions which is required for the others. So how we can do that? We're using the change ch mode only, change mode. So 744 cd. Let's see whether it has been changed or not. Here you can see that like the user has all the permissions and the group as only read permission and other as the group permissions. So here the like the we cannot do like additions or the deletions like that. Whatever the number you will be providing, that permissions will be assigned to that file. So I think hope you guys have been understood. So So next is like, apart from that, like in the file system, so what we have to understand that who has a permission, who is the user, who is the group. Okay, those groups only, they'll be having this permission. So Kali is the group. Second one is the group. Kali is the group, and Kali is the user. So the, because this file has that, I don't want the Kali user as this file of permissions. So I wanted the root user. That how we can do that. So we can use that using ch ownership, ch own. So I want it root. Okay, root. Okay, because we don't have a permission to do that. So for that, we have to go and do it in a using root. Okay. Okay. Here it has been changed to root. If I am there in the Kali user, if I wanted to edit something, Vim copy selection, paste selections. So here you can clearly see that cdr.text is read only because I don't have a permissions. Before that, I had a permission to edit. Now I don't have a permission to edit nothing because I have given the, if you see here, here the others as only read permissions. The Kali will become a other user because I have changed the ownership to root. So I hope the file system is clear. If you have any doubts, please write it in a comment. I will try to resolve the like your doubt as early as possible. Thank you. Keep subscribing and keep watching. Bye. Meet you next time.